uninvited from my own brother's big day, so I booked a trip, and then everything went off the rails. It all started the way many things in my family do, without warning and through a casual, chirpy group text. My mom, ever the self-appointed event organizer, sent out a message dripping with exclamation points. Hey everyone! The final guest list for Jason's graduation party is set. We're so excited to celebrate. I was on my lunch break when the notification popped up. I opened the message almost instinctively, scrolling through with a half smile. Jason's graduation was a big deal. We'd all watched him grind through school, barely sleep during finals, and stress over every paper. As his older sister, I'd felt proud watching him grow, and I'd done everything I could to support him along the way. But when I finished reading that list, my fingers froze mid-scroll. I wasn't on it. My name was nowhere in the cheerful parade of attendees. At first, I thought I was missing something. Maybe my name had been autocorrected or was accidentally skipped. I scrolled up again. Then down. Then up. Still nothing. Instead, the guest list was full of names I hadn't heard in years. Second cousins I hadn't seen since middle school. Neighbors from our old street. People who had little or no involvement in Jason's life in recent years. But not me. Not the sibling who had practically acted as his second parent during college. I had driven him to campus interviews in the dead of winter, edited his application essays while juggling my full-time job, and bailed him out twice when his rent money ran dry. I sat through long phone calls when he was stressed and even Venmo'd him money for textbooks he swore he'd pay me back for. I wasn't just a sibling, I was his biggest, most constant support system. So I texted my mom directly. I kept my tone light because surely this was a mix-up. Hey, just noticed my name isn't on the guest list, everything okay? She didn't reply by text. She called. The second I heard her voice, I recognized the softness. The kind of measured tone people use when they know they're about to say something you won't like. Sweetheart, she began, Jason really wanted this party to be more of a young crowd. His college friends. You know, keep the energy light and fun. Her words were deliberate, like she was carefully sidestepping landmines. But I wasn't reacting. I was quiet, waiting for the real reason. And it came. We just didn't want things to be uncomfortable with Ava there. That name hit like a slap. Ava. My best friend since 8th grade. My confidant until she crossed a line I never thought she would. Not long after I confided in her about family tensions and personal heartbreaks, she distanced herself and then resurfaced, dating my brother. The betrayal was sharp. We never had a proper falling out, just a long, slow fade that ended with her choosing Jason and my family pretending like nothing happened. And now she was invited. Welcomed. Included. And I wasn't. I didn't respond. I didn't cry, yell, or argue. I just said okay. And then I hung up. The silence that followed was louder than any argument we could have had. It rang in my ears, heavier than disappointment. It wasn't just about this one party, it was about everything. Every time I showed up and was forgotten. Every time I made space for others and found none reserved for me. I stared at the phone screen, still lit up from the call, and let the realization wash over me. I had been written out of my own family's narrative for the sake of convenience. I was the collateral damage in their need to keep things light. But I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to campaign for a seat at a table where I wasn't welcome. Something shifted inside me that day. Not a breakdown, more like a breakaway. I wouldn't let this be another story of me clinging to people who didn't see me. I decided, right then and there, to reclaim the energy I'd wasted trying to be indispensable to people who had already made their priorities clear. So instead of mourning my exclusion, I opened a travel site. I typed in one word, Hawaii. If they could uninvite me from their party, I could uninvite them from my peace. I didn't waste a single second crying on the couch or staring blankly at the ceiling. As soon as the call ended and the weight of their exclusion landed, something sparked inside me. It wasn't rage. It wasn't sorrow. It was clarity. A sharp, calm realization I was done trying to earn space where I wasn't wanted. I closed the group chat, set my phone on the table, and opened my laptop. The browser loaded slowly as if trying to keep up with my decision. The first thing I typed was, Hawaii. A flood of pictures filled the screen, turquoise water, palm trees swaying in soft wind, endless stretches of sunlit sand. I clicked on the first resort that had 5 stars and availability. Oceanfront suite, floor-to-ceiling windows, private balcony, spa access. I didn't even check the total cost. I hit book now, entered my credit card, and confirmed it without blinking. Then I booked my flights. Not the economy, not business, first class, full luxury. Because this wasn't just about getting away. It was about reclaiming every ounce of energy I'd spent trying to be seen by people who only noticed me when it was convenient. For the first time in my adult life, I didn't ask anyone for input. I didn't check my work calendar. I didn't think about who I'd disappoint by disappearing. I chose myself. The next morning, While my mom was likely picking out centerpieces and Jason was probably rehearsing a graduation toast, I was boarding a plane. Before I stepped through security, I snapped a photo of my boarding pass with my sunglasses and passport beside it. I posted it to my Instagram story with one line, "Uninvited, but not unwanted." The reactions came quickly. A stream of comments and fire emojis from friends. Iconic. Okay. Queen energy. Best revenge I've ever seen. Even old classmates I hadn't spoken to in years messaged me. Wait, what happened? Tell me everything. But the most notable response? A message from Ava. Glad you found something to do. We didn't want drama anyway. No punctuation. Just enough to be smug, but vague enough to play innocent. I stared at the message for exactly 5 seconds before deleting it without opening. She had made her choice when she replaced our years of friendship with cheap proximity to my brother. I wasn't going to give her any more airtime. The flight itself felt symbolic. I reclined in a plush leather seat, accepted the complimentary champagne with a smile, and let the hum of the engines drown out every memory of being overlooked. I watched clouds drift past the window and let myself think about absolutely nothing. When I landed in Honolulu, it was early evening. The air was warmer, saltier, and wrapped itself around me like a welcome I didn't know I needed. My driver met me at baggage claim with a smile and a fresh orchid lei. As we drove to the resort, the sun sank low, painting the sky with orange and magenta streaks. Check-in was seamless. My suite was even more breathtaking than the photos. White linen drapes fluttering at the window, a soaking tub beside the bed, and a view of the Pacific so vivid it didn't feel real. I kicked off my shoes, stepped onto the balcony, and stood there for a long time just listening. No talking, no buzzing phone. No one is asking for anything. That first night, I walked barefoot along the beach, letting the waves kiss my feet and the cool sand ground me. I didn't check social media. I didn't call anyone back home. I let the night wrap around me, and for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt a stillness settle in my chest. I slept with the balcony door cracked open, letting the sound of the ocean lull me to sleep. No alarms, no morning agenda, just rest. The days that followed became a quiet ritual of joy. I woke up when I wanted. I ate whatever I craved. Pineapple so sweet it didn't seem real. Freshly grilled fish with a view of the waves. I tried paddleboarding, took a sunrise yoga class, and spent entire afternoons reading in a hammock. Every minute felt like mine. The longer I stayed, the lighter I felt. My shoulders unclenched. My chest stopped feeling tight. I wasn't just on vacation, I was healing. I wasn't being included because someone felt obligated. I wasn't being tolerated. I wasn't someone's second choice. I woke to the sound of soft waves outside my balcony, the sunlight filtering through the gauzy curtains like a warm whisper. I stretched in bed, more rested than I had been in years, and padded barefoot toward the sliding door. The ocean shimmered like a mirror, and the breeze carried the scent of salt and hibiscus. I had no plans that day, and for once that was a beautiful thing. As I brewed a small cup of coffee in the suite's kitchen, my phone buzzed. Then again. Then a long string of pings. I sighed and picked it up, expecting some irrelevant group chat or spam notifications. Instead, what I saw stopped me in my tracks. Missed calls, dozens of texts, my mom, Jason, even a couple of relatives. The previews were chaotic. Call me ASAP. Something happened at the party. Jason lost it. Please get in touch. Still holding the warm mug, I unlocked the phone and began to read. The perfect graduation party, the one I was deemed too inconvenient to attend, had imploded less than halfway through the night. From what I could piece together, Jason and Ava had a massive fight in front of everyone. It started with some petty jabs about her outfit, but quickly escalated into something darker. Jason accused her of flirting with one of his college friends. She fired back that he was insecure and controlling. Then, mid-toast, right as my dad was raising a glass, Ava stormed out of the venue, but not before grabbing Jason's car keys from the gift table. Jason followed. Some people thought he was trying to calm her down. Others said he was yelling at her. Either way, in his drunken haste, he tripped over a speaker cord and crashed face-first into the dessert table, sending the cake flying and knocking over an entire bottle of champagne. Gasps. Screams. Someone called for help. Aunt Janice slipped on spilled punch and had to be helped into a chair. A toddler started crying. The DJ cut the music. Grandma had a panic attack and had to be driven home early. Then came the mic incident. Jason, still fuming, stood up and staggered back toward the crowd, snatched the microphone out of the stand and slurred into it. Here's to fake friends and even faker family. Hope you all enjoyed the disaster. Half the guests left in stunned silence. The other half stayed just long enough to whisper about it on the way out. And now? I was getting the fallout. Text after text saying I could have prevented it. I should have been there. If I had come, I would have known how to calm Jason down. That Ava might have behaved if I had been there to keep things civil. Somehow, my absence had become the scapegoat for a mess I didn't create. I stared at the screen, incredulous. They hadn't needed me when they excluded me. I wasn't part of the plan when things were going smoothly. But now that it had all gone to hell, they were desperate to pull me back in and pin me to the wreckage. I set the phone down without replying. I took a sip of coffee. The taste was perfect, smooth, slightly sweet, grounding. I carried it back to the balcony and sat down in the chair, letting the sun warm my legs. It was surreal. Here I was, thousands of miles away, not part of the event, not even mentioned in the original plan. And somehow I was still expected to be the one holding everyone together. That's when it hit me, this wasn't about the party. This was a pattern. I had always been the one to clean things up, to ease tensions, to absorb the discomfort so no one else had to deal with it. When things were bad, I was the fixer. When things were good, I was invisible. Not anymore. I spent the rest of the morning floating in the infinity pool. My phone buzzed a few more times. I ignored every single one. Later, I went for a walk through a botanical garden, took photos of flowers I couldn't name, and smiled at strangers who didn't know anything about me. I was present in a way I hadn't been in years. Not out of responsibility. Not because someone needed me. Just because I wanted to be. The longer I stayed away, the more I saw how much I had given without ever being asked how it was affecting me. And now that I had chosen myself, I wasn't going back. The messages didn't stop. By mid-afternoon, I'd received 7 missed calls from my mother, 4 from Jason, and a scattering of texts from aunts, uncles, even a couple of Jason's college friends. Everyone wanted something, my presence, my input, my ability to smooth over whatever chaos had been unleashed the night before. But I gave none of it. Not this time. I turned off my phone entirely and placed it in the hotel safe. Not because I was afraid of losing it, but because I was finally tired of carrying the weight of people who never asked how heavy it was for me. Instead, I booked a massage. The spa was tucked away behind a garden, the path winding between plumeria trees and tiny fountains. When I stepped inside, the smell of lavender and coconut oil wrapped around me like a balm. My masseuse didn't ask many questions, just dimmed the lights and began to work years of tension out of my back, shoulders, and jaw. Somewhere between the scent of eucalyptus and the sound of soft waves through the open windows, something inside me broke, but not in a bad way. It was more like shedding a layer I didn't realize I had been carrying. The pain, the frustration, the resentment, it all began to melt. What replaced it wasn't forgiveness. It was clarity. I didn't need them to apologize. I didn't need them to see me now, because I had finally seen myself. After the massage, I sat outside on a chaise lounge in a white robe, sipping cucumber water and staring at the horizon. The ocean didn't care who had wronged me. The breeze didn't ask me to perform gratitude for being tolerated. This place, this peace, I didn't need permission to claim it. That night, I ordered dinner to my room, a grilled mahi-mahi with mango salsa, coconut rice, and a chilled glass of white wine. I ate on the balcony under string lights, wrapped in a blanket, listening to the hum of distant music and the crash of waves. I thought about the way people always assumed I'd be okay. That I'd handle things. That I'd forgive without needing to hear, "I'm sorry." I thought about all the ways I had made myself smaller to keep the peace, only to be told I was too quiet, too distant, too sensitive. Not anymore. That night, I journaled for the first time in years. Pages and pages poured out. Not just about the party or Ava or Jason, but about every time I had put myself last and called it love. I wrote until my hand cramped. I slept like a child. The next morning, I walked down to the beach at sunrise. There were only a few people scattered along the sand. Mostly couples holding hands, some early morning joggers, and a woman in her 60s sitting cross-legged near the shore. I nodded at her as I passed, and she smiled like we shared some quiet understanding. I sat with my toes in the sand, letting the water soak up to my ankles. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just breathed. Deeply. Fully. This wasn't just a vacation anymore. It had become a line in the sand, literally and metaphorically, between the person I had been and the person I was becoming. When I finally turned my phone back on, there were more messages. A few apologies. A couple of half-hearted explanations. One from Jason trying to laugh off the drama. "You didn't miss much," he wrote. "Just a little family chaos. Hope you're enjoying the beach. I didn't respond. Not because I was angry, but because I no longer owed them anything. I had paid in full, with years of showing up, biting my tongue, and picking up pieces they dropped. And now, I was finally choosing myself. Update. The next few days passed like a dream. Only this time it was one I didn't want to wake up from. I began each morning with a walk along the shoreline, the cold morning waves brushing against my ankles, pulling back just as gently as they came. I watched the horizon without checking my phone, without wondering what anyone else was doing or thinking. For the first time, I wasn't calculating how to make myself smaller, easier, more convenient. I was just there. Each moment became its form of therapy. I took long swims, letting the salt water sting every inch of my skin and remind me I was alive. I wrote in my journal until the pages curled from humidity. I ate alone without shame, savoring every bite without distraction, without guilt. On the third night, I extended my stay. No hesitation, no consulting anyone. I booked another 5 days. The hotel staff smiled and welcomed me like I was family. But the difference was, here, I didn't have to prove my worth to belong. Back home, the messages dwindled. Apologies turned into silence. The desperation faded. It was as if they finally accepted I wasn't rushing back to fix what they broke. And strangely, I didn't feel guilty about it. That guilt, once a constant hum in the background of my life, had quieted. It wasn't that I stopped caring. I just started caring about myself more. The most unexpected part of it all was how light I felt. Not in the superficial, carefree sense, but light as in unburdened. Years of walking on eggshells, of absorbing blame that was never mine to carry, of pretending I was fine just to keep the peace. Lifted. My final evening in Hawaii, I sat at the edge of a volcanic cliff during sunset, watching the sky shift from gold to lavender to midnight blue. I didn't take a picture. I didn't record a video. I simply sat and absorbed it. That moment, like so many others from this trip, was just for me. And in that stillness, I made a quiet promise to myself. Never again would I beg to be included. Never again would I let someone else's comfort come at the expense of my dignity. I could be kind without being silent. I could love my family without losing myself. As my return flight approached, I didn't feel dread. I didn't feel anticipation either. I felt calm, because I wasn't flying home to the same role I had left behind. I was flying back with new boundaries, new clarity, and a deep knowing that I didn't need to explain any of it. They may never understand why I left. They may rewrite the story in their heads, make me the dramatic one, the overreactor, the selfish one. But I don't need their version to feel valid. I have mine, and that's enough. When the plane lifted off the runway and Hawaii disappeared beneath me, I didn't look back. Not because I wanted to erase the past, but because I was finally carrying forward only what nourished me. The peace I found in quiet moments, the clarity that came with distance, the certainty that I didn't need permission to choose myself. Because sometimes, the most powerful goodbyes aren't the loud ones. They're the ones whispered in the language of self-worth, spoken only to the parts of you that finally feel heard. Ever been excluded by the people who should have had your back? Would you have stayed away? Or flown back into the chaos? Tell me below. And if this story made you feel seen, it was meant for you. Hope you enjoyed this story as much as I do. Help this small channel grow by hitting that like button, subscribing, and sharing with your friends. Every bit of support means the world. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.